Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I thought I would chat a bit today about reading in another language. I've seen around on YouTube, BookTube, different people's experience reading in other languages. And I really got inspired a while back by the medieval reader. Did a video about learning another language and the importance of trying to read in that language, and that video really inspired me to really give this a go myself. So I can read intermediate. I'm about an intermediate reader in Spanish and in Portuguese. I read a few years ago. I read the first of the Harry Potter books in Spanish, and it took me months. But I got inspired by the medieval reader's video that I will link to down in the details below, because she made the point. She was learning French, and she's now fluent in French, and she was giving us her experience back when she was still sort of new at it, and she explained that she picked up a book and started trying to read it, and she encouraged people to do this, and then not get discouraged if you didn't understand. She's explaining that she didn't understand everything right off the bat, but with perseverance, of course you get better. And I thought that's really true. I think I might have gone about reading the Harry Potter book in Spanish. I think I probably went about that wrong, because I went very meticulously, how I can tend to do things, and got caught up on details a lot of times. But what I've decided to do is I decided to pick up some books in Portuguese, because I would really like to work on my Portuguese for various reasons, and read a few. It'll take me a long time, obviously, to get through these works, but to have them sort of as side reads, as an ongoing side reading project, to not only improve my Portuguese, but it's just good mental exercise. I've seen a lot of evidence for this in neuroscience, where learning another language and actually using another language, you can't, not just learning it, you actually have to use it, is a very healthy thing for a person's brain. So, I've got multiple reasons to do this, especially now that I'm, shall we say, middle-aged, where I need to think about, my brain health and keeping my brain healthy, because I kind of depend on it for a bunch of things. So anyway, to the books. So one of them I just received, so it's actually still in the box. I had to order these books from Brazil because I couldn't seem to find them in a U.S. Amazon or online. So I wound up ordering these from a bookseller in Brazil, and 3 of them came right away, and then the 4th one just came. It took a little bit longer, but here you can see, Livraria Cultura from Brazil, São Paulo. So let's just open this up and pop this one out and take a look at it. The others, I've already opened those boxes because I got those a few days ago, or actually, it's been a while now, and I went ahead and opened those because I just couldn't, wait, because I was too impatient to see them. I was just really curious to see what they look like. Now this actually came all the way from Brazil, and it looks like they packed it knowing that it's going to go internationally. So let me just cut open the box. Maybe I should have actually just gone ahead and opened this, but what's the fun of that? Here we go. All right. Plastic, covered in plastic. This book, I actually got inspired to try this author. I have never read any of this author, and I heard about him. It was mentioned on the channel Paper Bird. Antonio Lobo Antunes. The name of the book is Explicação dos pássaros, which in English is an explanation of the birds. So yeah, I heard about this author. I had heard about the author, but the Paperbird channel did a book. I think it was Paperbird. Did a review or a chat about one of this, not this book, but a book by this author. And I thought, I really want to read that author. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to read that author, maybe I should give it a shot in, and read it in Portuguese. So, yeah, this is about, this might not have been the best one to choose, though, because this one's actually kind of bleak. It's about a man who is sort of having an existential crisis, who's had a pretty unhappy life and finds himself alienated. And really his happiest memory is talking about birds with his father as a child. And I won't say anything more about the book at this point. Yeah, he goes on a sort of he's having trouble with his second wife, and anyway, it's a literary kind of experience, so it may be a little difficult to get through. But I decided to just give myself patience, and I'll get through it sooner or later. I'm in no particular hurry. I do have my pocket dictionary of Portuguese, and this is very handy too for me. 501 verbs. These are not all the verbs possible, but it's been my experience that it's most of the ones, that are used most frequently. So whenever I've read in Portuguese and I need to refer to a verb, a conjugation of a verb, I can check that out. But yeah, so the other works that I'm going to be reading is Poesia completa de Alberto Caeiro. This is by Fernando Pessoa, and this is the complete poetry of Alberto Caeiro. So Alberto Caeiro is a heteronym of Fernando Pessoa. So if you've heard me talk on my videos multiple times about Fernando Pessoa, he was a Portuguese author, writer, intellectual from the early 20th century who died in 1935, and he had multiple heteronyms, he called it. He wrote under multiple names, but these were not nom de plume. These people, his heteronyms had their own existences. They had their own biographies. They have their own writing styles. So I've read some poetry by Alberto Caeiro before in a collection of Fernando Pessoa's poetry that I read earlier this year. I'll link to that chat below if you're interested in hearing more about it. But I've actually started reading through this one already, and if I could get to the point of really being fluent enough to read Portuguese poetry, I would consider my Portuguese learning a success. So, speaking of Fernando Pessoa, so I have Livro do Desassossego. This is the Book of Disquiet. This is the original Portuguese of the Book of Disquiet, which I've talked about a number of times on this channel, and I will link to that chat below as well. This is an autobiography of one of Fernando Pessoa's heteronyms. This book is actually not by Fernando Pessoa. It's by one of his heteronyms called Bernardo Soares. So it's sort of an autobiography / diary of Bernardo Soares. So. Yeah, Livro do Desassossego, Book of Disquiet. And then the last one is O Ano da Morte da Ricardo Reis. This is by José Saramago. José Saramago won the Nobel Prize for Literature back in the 90s, and I've read one of his works in English called The Gospel of Jesus Christ, The Gospel According to Jesus Christ, which I really enjoyed. This one, O Ano da Morte de Ricardo Reis, is the year of the death of Ricardo Reis. So it is, Ricardo Reis is actually one of the heteronyms of Fernando Pessoa. So what José has done here, what Saramago has done, is he's written a novel where one of Fernando Pessoa's heteronyms, one of his personas, one of his persons. This particular person, Ricardo Reis, was in Brazil, had exiled himself to Brazil. He was a monarchist. So he had, like I said, they had a big biography, a whole biography. And at the time of Pessoa's death, Ricardo Reis is living in Brazil. And so this is Saramago brings him back to Portugal in 1936, and his experiences there in Portugal in 1936. So I have started trying to read through this one. This one's going to be tough for me to read. This one's going to be a challenge for me to read. But I have these works. This should keep me really busy for side reading in Portuguese. For the foreseeable future, anyway. And yeah, I hope that, over the course of the reading project that my Portuguese improves. My reading Portuguese is much better than my speaking Portuguese, and my speaking Portuguese is better than my written Portuguese, because Portuguese is similar to Spanish, but there's a lot more pronunciation variances and a bunch of different sorts of accent marks and grammatical sort of marks. So I'm still learning the writing and the speaking and the reading, but at least I can read well enough now to read through something very slowly, as long as I have my reference books handy. So that's my side reading in Portuguese project for now. So until next time, take care. Bye.